welcome back to my channel. Before we jump into this video, I do want to give a little bit of a trigger warning. In this video, I will be talking about miscarriage and things that go along with that, like symptoms and stuff. So yeah, just so you're warned. I have been putting off making this video because I was hoping that before I would film this video, I would have enough information to just close this chapter of what I'm going through right now. But as it stands, this whole thing has been going on for over a week now, and I still don't have any clear answers as to what happened, what's going to happen. But I've kind of decided that I just want to share it anyway because I want to open up the opportunity for anybody who might be going through the same thing to kind of reach out and just be like, hey, I'm going through this too. And I just want those out there that might be going through the same thing to know that they're not alone. This is not something that's easy to go through. This is all new territory for me, honestly. But with all of that being said, I will go ahead and jump into it. I do have some notes here on my phone, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Like I said, it's already been a week since this whole thing has unfolded, and it's been kind of hard to remember all the details, so I tried to take notes so I could remember timeline and stuff. So going back to last Monday night at like 9:30, I was sitting on the couch with the kids and I started to have some very, very, very mild cramping, and I thought, okay, that's weird. And I kind of just thought maybe it would just be like cramping of my uterus expanding because baby's growing and all that stuff. So I didn't think too much of it. But eventually I did feel like I had to go use the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and when I used the bathroom, when I wiped, I saw blood, and then that caused me to look down and realize that I had bled quite a bit in the toilet. To backtrack a little bit, with all of my pregnancies, I have never had bleeding. It's not something I'm used to. I know that some women will bleed in their first trimester and there might not even be something that's wrong, and it's just something that their body does and it's unexplained. But for me, I've never had any bleeding in the past, so for me this was not normal. When I was pregnant with my third child, Xander, when I was 6 weeks along, I did have spotting. That was abnormal for me as well. I was able to contact my doctor at the time, and he called me in for an ultrasound the next day, and we were able to check it out and everything was fine. So there is that little bit of history. But this bleeding that I had was like I was on my period. So of course I was really worried. My first thought was, oh no, I'm miscarrying. And I did see a few very small clots, very tiny though, like smaller than the size of a pea. I wasn't too worried that I had actually miscarried in that moment. I just kind of thought like, oh no, this must be the beginning of miscarrying though. So I ended up actually putting on a pad because it was that much bleeding, and I didn't know how much more my body was going to give. So I put on a pad and I went and I sat down on the couch and just continued to hang out with the kids. And I think maybe 30 minutes later, I used the bathroom again and I did bleed into the toilet again. I hadn't bled into the pad at all, but once I sat down on the toilet, I had bled into the toilet. It wasn't as much as the first time, but again, bleeding during pregnancy is something that's typically alarming. So I was scared and I had just decided at that point that it was just time to go to bed and call it a day. I didn't want to think about it. I truly thought that I was miscarrying. So it was like 10 o'clock at night. I put the kids to bed and I went to bed myself, kind of mentally preparing myself that I was losing the baby. Early the next morning at like 3 a.m., Xander woke up crying. So as I normally do, I went into his room and I calmed him down and put him back to sleep. And then I thought, you know, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and see what's going on, if I'm still bleeding or if I bled into the pad or anything like that. So I was just waiting to see if it was progressing. When I used the bathroom, I didn't bleed into the toilet, I don't think. Okay, so on here, I put that I had a couple drops of blood that went into the toilet, but And I had some blood when I wiped, but that was pretty much it. It wasn't as much blood as the first 2 times that I had used the bathroom. And at that point, I kind of thought, you know what, let me take a pregnancy test, which in hindsight is kind of like that was pointless, because I know that HCG takes a while to leave your body, and so it's not like I was gonna get an instant negative pregnancy test at that point. I guess the thought in my mind at that point was that if I took a pregnancy test, if I was miscarrying or had miscarried, maybe the line would be darker than what I'm used to seeing. So I did take a pregnancy test, which I have here, and instantly the line was super dark. The darkest line you could possibly even get on a pregnancy test, darker than the control line. So there's that. So I went back to bed. When I got up for the day later that morning, I went to use the bathroom, and I didn't bleed into the pad and I didn't bleed into the toilet, but when I wiped, I had some light colored blood on the toilet paper. And as the day went on, I just monitored that and noticed that it was only when I would wipe that I had some blood, but it was still getting lighter and lighter. And then as the day went on, towards the end of the day, it had turned into more of a brownish color when I would wipe, and if there would be anything there. So the bleeding never came back, never picked up. All during that time, I never had any cramping or any other weird symptoms. That specific day we had a chiropractor appointment, so we just went on with that appointment, and I just tried to lay low that day because I didn't know what was going on. I do believe that it was that day as well that I started to call around to try to figure out where I could maybe get an ultrasound done, because I just really wanted to see what was going on. I wanted to see if I had in fact miscarried or if a miscarriage was coming. At that point, I was only 5 weeks, and gosh, 5 weeks and a couple days. So I was pretty early on, and I'm in this weird limbo stage where the doctor's office that I was under with my last 2 pregnancies, they no longer exist, and so I have to find new care. Because of that, I'm not officially under any doctor right now. So when I was calling all of these places, including women's care centers, I called all over. I called everywhere, and nobody would take me in because I was so early on. And, you know, typically when you're trying to get established care somewhere, they just want to see you when you're about 12 weeks along, you know, when they officially take you on as their patient and you get your established care and all that stuff. So to my understanding, it just seemed like my only option would be to go to the ER if I wanted to get immediate attention and to get an ultrasound, which for me just felt like it would have been a waste of time and money because it didn't feel like an emergency. I wasn't still bleeding or anything like that. One of the places that I did call said that they would give me an ultrasound the soonest at 8 weeks along. Just keep that in mind for now. One place that I did call had told me that they couldn't take me on, but they kind of just suggested that I find a place to get my blood drawn and I could at least check my HCG numbers and see if they're going up or if they're going down, and that would tell me if I miscarried or not. So I went on calling different places to try to figure out where I could get my blood drawn and get that checked, and I finally got a hold of a place that was willing to do that. So I made an appointment for that, and that was going to be the next day. So the next day rolls around and it's time for my appointment, so I went in to that doctor's office and I saw the doctor there. I explained my situation because she was pretty much like, so why have you decided to come here? And I told her what happened, and she understood my dilemma because she was familiar with my past doctor's office that closed, so she understood, like, now I'm in this weird limbo mode, so she wanted to help me out as much as she could. I told her everything that happened, and she kind of told me she didn't think that with what I experienced that it was a miscarriage, because she said she believes that if it was me miscarrying, then the bleeding would have gotten more intense and I would have probably had more cramping and stuff than I did. But obviously the bleeding's not normal, so she agreed with me that the best thing for us to do would be for me to get my blood drawn and check my HCG and my progesterone levels. I got my blood drawn, and she told me to come back in 48 hours and then we would do another blood draw and compare the numbers and see what's going on. So I got my blood drawn and I left that office, and just came home to lay low with the kids, try not to do any heavy lifting or anything strenuous, kind of just try to relax at this point. With that first blood draw, my HCG ended up being like 34,705, which is technically over the normal range for the amount of weeks that I was. And then my progesterone was at a 17, and they say that for progesterone you should be between 11 and 44, so it's not like I was at the lowest, but you know, I feel like I should be higher than a 17. The next day, this would have been May 23rd at 10:30 in the morning. I used the bathroom and I had like a white dime size clot in the toilet. It was probably discharged now that I think about it, and then when I wiped I had some pinkish discharge and stuff, so I was kind of scared again. I'm like, oh no, this better not be something that's going to pick up and you're just so scared at that point. Every time you use the bathroom at that point, you're terrified. You're terrified to see red. Like this, it's the worst thing ever. You hate going to the bathroom every single time after that. A half hour later, I had the same thing. When I used the bathroom and I wiped, I had pinkish discharge, and so I took it easy the rest of the day. I was just really praying hard that that wasn't going to turn into blood or anything worse. And all the while, I had no cramping, no other weird symptoms, just nothing. It's just so weird. And of course, during this whole time, my mind is fighting me. You know, you want to be optimistic, but to also backtrack to my first ever pregnancy, I had a miscarriage. My baby had stopped growing at like 8.5 weeks, but my body continued to show signs of pregnancy until I was 12 weeks along, and I went for my first initial appointment, and they couldn't pick up the heartbeat on a Doppler, so they sent me to get an ultrasound, and then of course they didn't see a heartbeat or anything, and I had to go on to have a D&E done because we just didn't know when my body was actually going to register that the baby had passed away and actually expel it. So I did have a miscarriage, and because of that, I feel like I have a little trauma with that as far as not feeling like I can trust my body to do what it's supposed to do. And this time around, I guess that I'm afraid to go through the same thing. I'm afraid that my body is going to be tricking me that I'm still pregnant when in fact the baby like would have passed away, if that makes sense. So I always have that like taunting me in the back of my head, even though it's like during this time, you know, I try to hold on to the facts. It's like I didn't miscarry. I should be thankful for that. But it's still hard because I didn't have an ultrasound and I still had no answers as to why I had that initial bleeding and what is going on. My brain was just going crazy during the next 48 hours of waiting to get my blood drawn again and get some results. May 24th at 9, I went in and I got my blood drawn again, but I was told that I would maybe not see the results till Tuesday because of Memorial Day weekend. And I was like, are you kidding me? But the person who did my blood draw was super cool, super nice, and was just like, listen, how bad do you need these results? Because he said that he's actually able to check the results at home, and that if I gave him my number, he could take a screenshot of the results and get it to me, and I wouldn't have to wait till Tuesday. I kind of explained my situation, but I think he knew that it was pretty important to me because I'm sure he understands what HCG is and stuff. And so he took my number down and he said that he would get me the results on Saturday, and that way I wouldn't have to wait until Tuesday, which I am so thankful for. So on Saturday in the afternoon, he did text me an image of my results, and it showed that my progesterone was at a 13 and my HCG was at 41,560. So my HCG was going up, but my progesterone had dropped, which is crazy. Like that my progesterone went from 17 to 13 in 48 hours, and I wasn't sure why. That day, I got some progesterone cream, and I have been taking that 3 times a day ever since Saturday now. As far as like my HCG numbers, I was happy to see that they had gone up, but I was doing some research, and I know that like when you're early on in your pregnancy they should be doubling, but I don't know at what point they slow down and they don't exactly double anymore. But then also like when you research things, you find good information, but then it also says like, oh, but everybody's bodies are so different, so One person had their HCG slowly rise, but their baby and their pregnancy went on to be completely healthy. So it's like almost helpful finding things on the internet, but then it's not, because it's like you don't know what your body does and if it's gonna be the same thing that it did that somebody else's body did. So anyways, so at first I was happy my HCG went up, and then I thought, oh no, is it supposed to be doubling? Should it actually be in like the 60,000 something? So I tried not to think about that too much, and I just tried to focus on the things that I know I could control myself, which was get a good quality progesterone cream and put that on to at least get my progesterone up. Continue taking my prenatals and vitamins and drink lots of water and all that stuff and rest. So that has been my focus lately. And all this time, I still haven't had any weird symptoms or reasons to worry at all. I still feel pregnant. I have been having cravings like crazy for savory and salty things. I've been peeing often. I've even felt queasy sometimes if I haven't eaten often enough, like legit craving potato salad the other day. So anyways, at this point, I have no answers because that's where I'm at. Like, it is Monday today. Tuesday. It is Tuesday today. And now I have to figure out my plan of action, which I think is to maybe get my blood drawn one more time this week to see if my progesterone and my HCG has gone up. And other than that, I feel like I'm just gonna have to wait until I'm 8 weeks along and then get a free ultrasound with this women's care place that I have contacted already before. Today I think I'm 6 weeks and 6 days. Yeah, so tomorrow I'll be 7 weeks along, so that means I'd have to wait one more week before I could get an ultrasound to see if they can find a heartbeat. So at this point, I am optimistic. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm praying hard. Ultimately, I am at peace with whatever happens, but obviously I'd much rather keep my baby than go through a miscarriage. Duh. And yeah, it's so hard to go through this. Like, I really wanted to share this as I'm going through it because I just think of others out there that could be going through the same thing, that it would be nice to be like, hey, reach out, like, if you're going through this too, let me know. We can comfort each other during this crazy time. So yeah, until my next blood draw, I'm just going to be taking it easy, and that's all I can do at this point, and just see how things go. That's kind of why I've been MIA here on my channel. I haven't felt like vlogging at all, and I've been really mentally busy trying to figure out what do I do, and just trying to take things slow, spend time with the kids, and just relax. As I said, I just wanted to make this video, get it out there. If you see this video and you are going through this scary limbo stage of early pregnancy, not knowing what's going on with your body, or if things are progressing and how it's going, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I know that you can't message me directly here on YouTube other than comments, which you could leave a comment down below if you want, but if you want to have more of a personal chat, definitely follow my Instagram and shoot me a message, and I would be totally happy to chat with you and just be there with you as you're going through this. Early pregnancy is a scary thing, a very scary thing. If something happens that's alarming and you can't even get any immediate answers. I may never get answers as far as why I had that first initial bleeding. Crazy to me that I wasn't able to find a doctor's office that would take me in, but apparently if I had a doctor established already, they would have taken me in. It's just, it's crazy. I'm gonna stop yapping at this point. I hope that you somehow maybe found this video helpful. But yeah, if you think of me, I definitely wouldn't mind if you would shoot up a prayer for me. I am staying positive, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that sometimes the doubts and stuff creeps in sometimes. So I don't really know how to wrap up this video because it just feels like it's such a sensitive topic. I hope you are all doing well, and I will see you in my next video, which will hopefully have a good update.